Hi, I'm Kurt Fernley, former Paralympian, broadcasting from a Wabakal country.
And I'm Georgie Tunney, and I'm in denial once again. Another Paralympic Games have come to an end. I'm broadcasting from Gadigal country.
Don't put the tears up the front of the show. We're going to save the tears for the end.
We love the feels, Kurt. We've just got to embrace them. We're going to get through it. We can get through this episode. We can. I know we can.
Well, on today's show, you get to meet our favourite sports administrator of all time.
Kurt, that sounds so boring. So boring. Kate is far more than a sports administrator. Come on now.
She's the person that makes everything happen behind the scenes for our Australian Paralympic team and has for nearly a decade.
See, that's way more exciting. Way more exciting, yes.
And we get to speak to the person who's carrying the Australian flag out to the closing ceremony.
Oh, it's a huge honour. I couldn't think of anything better to finish off such an incredible game here in Beijing.
Georgie, I cannot believe that it's the last time we get to sit down and talk about our Winter Paralympians and find out what was the day's you little ripper moment, but here we go. Who was yours?
Right throughout the week, a lot of focus has been paid to one team in particular, and it just so happens it's not even our team, Kurt, in Australia, and that is why I have to give my you little ripper moment in this final episode of our season to Team Ukraine. They won another gold medal on the last day of competition in the open relay, and we all know what is happening away from the slopes with their home country. So this team has just showed absolute chutzpah and guts and courage and emotion, and I'm not sure quite frankly how they've done it, but they have finished with 29 medals overall, 11 golds, 10 silver, 8 bronze to finish second on the medal tally, which is just mind-boggling. China is up in number 1 with 61 medals, which is mind-boggling in itself. They won so many. What a haul for them, the host nation. But I just can't go past Ukraine. I can't go past Ukraine. They get me in the feels every time.
My little ripper moment is Josh Hanlon. Today he got sixth in the seated Today he got sixth in the seated slalom, but he got third in his second attempt at this thing. This is a kid who is so close to cracking on onto that podium, and again, friend of the pod. As we saw, he's so new to the movement, he's so new to the sport itself, that he has a monster future ahead of him. So I've got to finish my last you little ripper moment with Josh Hanlon at a Winter Paralympics, because I reckon it's the first you little ripper moment at the next. My best of the rest is Pat Jensen again. Pat had an 8th overall today, but his conversation after he competed was just phenomenal. He referred to his enjoyment level of skiing. He said he's had the most fun he's ever had skiing for years. And he also recognised that this is one of the last races that he will partake, or one of the last Paralympics he will partake with vision. So his prediction is that a lot of people have disability that remains static. Some people have disability that may come in and out. Others have a disability that is degenerative, and the impairment will increase over his life. Pat's got Pat lands in the later boat, so he recognises that his vision is degenerating, and that the next time potentially that he's heading down a slope like that, he could be a B1, which is our classification for somebody who is completely blind. So it's almost, hearing him speak about that, but also speak that he's still going to compete, he's going to be there, and I think he's another one of those athletes that the Paralympic movement is in his soul.
Oh, it certainly is, and it's just one of those moments, I think. It just adds yet another layer of complexity to what is going on for these athletes just to get to their events and compete, and also be focusing, let alone achieve what they have achieved so far. Knowing that that is potentially his final Paralympic event with his current stage of vision, and yet he's able to, complete both runs, finish 8th overall. Wonderful for Pat and his guy. That was so wonderful. My best of the rest, Kurt.
Go for it.
Goes for a sport well, it has to go to a sport that you and I potentially may
Not
try out in the
potentially.
future.
No, we're not talking potentially. Take that to the bank.
Yes, it has to go to the sledge hockey because this was an enthralling matchup. The gold medal match, Team USA up against Team Canada. It does not get much more arch rivals than that. And it came down to not really the wire at all. Team USA were very, very good. Too strong for Team Canada, who'd been so great throughout the whole Paralympics. But Team USA were too good. They won relatively easy. I don't think this sport is easy. So I'm going to say relatively easy in the end. 5-0 to be gold medalist. So that's my best of the rest because as we know, we start watching these games, Kurt, and we just like put our heads in our hands and say, how do people get through them?
I think that's a great best of the rest, and it's all. I'm just going to throw it out there here on you, Little Ripper. First, the warning shot will be fired. The ice roos are coming for you, USA.
Yes.
They are coming, and we probably won't be in it.
We
will be legitimate athletes, but they're coming for you. It has been a huge week for us here at You Little Ripper. It's been great watching it, but today we get to have the insight, the behind the scenes talk about the entire movement, but also we get to talk with the flag bearer and the chef de mission to speak to Kate McLoughlin, who's the chef de mission, Ben Tudhope, obviously, who's the flag bearer, but we get to speak to Kate about why she chooses Ben. Ben Tudhope and Kate McLoughlin, welcome to You Little Ripper.
Thank you for having us.
Mate, you're pretty much hosting You Little Ripper at the moment. You've been in here. It's your third attendance within the games period. But we had to get you back because you've been named as the flag bearer. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's a huge honor. I couldn't think of anything better to finish off such an incredible game here in Beijing. And yeah, for Kate to tell me yesterday, giving me the honour to be the flag bearer is just enormous, and yeah, makes me proud to be an Aussie.
And Kate, I want you to talk us through that moment of where you really surprised Ben with letting him know that he was the flag bearer on that gondola. Who came up with that? How'd you pull it off? And also, how did you decide that Ben was, going to be the perfect flag bearer for us?
We nearly didn't pull it off.
Oh,
so the whole idea was that we were supposed to meet Ben down at his car and take him straight onto the gondola so he didn't have any interaction with anybody else.
Yes.
So but his car arrived 20 minutes earlier. So I was about to go and get the flag, and then he just had turned up at the allotment, and then and we didn't even say hello, did we? I was what are you doing here? So we had to kind of quickly usher him before he saw anybody else, got him on the gondola, and then obviously, was able to ask him that question. I love a good surprise, though. I think we've done it before, Kurt, haven't we? Surprises are our thing. And in terms of your other question around why, look, I mean, he's, I think Ben, it's not just about the amazing performance that he came up with here in Beijing, but, he's just such a stand-up Australian Paralympian, stand-up young man, and I think he's just the most he's an amazing role model. He's someone who speaks from his heart. I mean, everyone's probably heard his interviews over here. He doesn't just speak to the performances that he's achieved personally. He speaks to the team behind him, those that have helped him get to where he is, but also he talks about the past and those trailblazers from the Australian Paralympic family that have enabled him to have the success he has today. And I just every time I hear him speak, it just gives me goosebumps. And I think you couldn't pick a better person to carry that flag out and represent our team tonight. If
you had the ability to speak back to everybody in this country, I don't know, some words, what would they be while you're carrying the flag in the green and gold? Oh, it would just be, I really reckon it's just proud. It's proud to be an Australian, and carrying the flag represents so much of Australia as a whole, but also the Paralympics and how everyone on this team has done so well. And that's what's so cool, I think, about the closing ceremony. It's really a celebration of
what we have done of the past 2 weeks compared to the opening, where it's that kind of representing of the game, the start of the game. But I feel like everybody just wants to have fun and a good time at the closing. So I'll be honoured to represent not only the team but the whole of Australia walking into that ceremony, and just have a great time as well.
Well, we can't wait to see it, Ben. We're so excited for you. Kate, from as we call you here, world sports greatest sports administrator that ever lived.
Of all time.
Worldwide, world renowned.
Yes.
From that perspective, for you heading into a closing ceremony, is it just a moment to exhale?
I think I will relax when every single member of our team hits the tarmac in Australia and is safely back home to their families. I think, it's been a incredibly challenging 12 months, both for our summer mob and our winter mob. They've performed so incredibly brilliantly on the world stage. But until we get them home safely, I think that's always been our mantra, I guess, for the last couple of games, just because, it's just so many crazy things going on in the world. And I can't wait to deliver these guys back to their families too, because, more than most athletes, they've been on the road for months and months and months. And so it'll be just so lovely for them to go back home and spend time with their family, give them a hug and spend some time at the beach, hopefully, which is a little bit different to where they've been.
Hot weather.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can serve that up to you, mate, when you get home. Kate, you've led the team with this equal mix of both care and just undeniable hard work. I'm sure the 24 hours in the lead up to these games would have been extremely hard. Can you take us back to that 24 hours, both the first meeting that would have happened, it would have been chef de mission's meeting, when it was said that Russia would compete under a neutral banner. Can you talk us through how those meetings were and how it affected you?
They were emotional, like incredibly emotional, to see the way that different chef de missions from different countries were all visibly moved by the situation. I think what it just brought home to us is that whilst, we come to these games to celebrate sport and come together, and it's just so lovely that we get to spend time together once every 2 years, the enormity of the situation in Ukraine, when we're all together and all had, you don't usually share those moments together. And I think that was, the world had come together in one moment and was experiencing all these, multitude of emotions. It was pretty full on, I'll be honest. And I know that there was a lot of mixed emotion. A lot of people saying, what about the athletes from those two countries that were being, spoken about, Russia, Belarus, about whether, those athletes, the views of those athletes weren't necessarily, the government's views were not the views of those athletes. And a lot of sympathy for what those athletes, as obviously the Ukrainian athletes were the ones that were in the forefront of everyone's mind, but also those athletes that being impacted by the actions of their government. So it was incredibly emotional, I'll be honest.
Was it a tears emotional, or was it angry emotional?
A little bit of both, I think. There were people, those chef de mission meetings tend to be sometimes quite amusing. They're around very menial operational matters and trying to make sure that everything's set up well for the performance environment that we created at games. And that shifted in a very short space of time, that those meetings became incredibly serious and somber. Yes, there was anger. Yes, there were tears. There were people that were getting choked up trying to speak about the situation and about what the views of their own country were.
How do you bounce back from that? Because obviously that is one of the more intense lead-ins to a games. How do you bounce back? How does the team bounce back? How does the entire event bounce back?
I think, to be quite honest, and Ben, you can tell me what you think about this, but our athletes, I feel, were so focused on what they were there to do. And I guess it was my job to make sure that, you know, they didn't probably, this is actually the first time I've spoken about that meeting. I've not, because when you come out of that meeting, if the athletes are not talking about it and wanting to know information, they're focused on what they're there to do, which is to compete. I'm sure they would have had their own opinions, and there's the odd conversation about it, but it was very little because they hadn't started competing yet. So it's not something that I would have brought up, and it's probably something I kept to myself because, you know, there was no point in providing any additional burden on the athletes at that moment in time, but I know that they felt for the Ukrainian athletes for sure.
Well, I think that I've seen you do that multiple times, right? Like I've seen you take a pretty heavy moment and make sure that it doesn't impact into that vacuum that we've been beneficiaries of, and that Ben and the team are now. But Ben, I've got to ask you, mate, and I want Kate to have a crack at this one as well. What's been your highlight off the track, off the racing circuit, off the competition field? Is there a moment that you go, this has been a great games?
I feel like it's been a different game for us because we have been in separate villages. So I'm away from the skiing athletes and they're away from me as well. And one of the best moments for me was actually coming down and meeting the skiers for the first time in Beijing. And we had a great team meeting. Me and Mel got to speak for the first time as team captains. And just to have everyone from Australia together in that moment was truly special. And it was before the games even began. It was before opening ceremony. It was like, okay, we are finally here and ready to go now.
I think it's probably another moment where we were all together. Perhaps some of us were virtually, though. Yeah. Obviously, everybody knows that, you know, unfortunately, John Callahan wasn't able to compete at these games. And that was, you know, I think that really got to everybody. It was really tough because, you know, it's such a close-knit group, and to miss one person is really hard. But Jonty was amazing. We kept in touch with Jonty throughout the entire games. And there was one night where we did a trivia night, completely organised by Jonty. And he did 10 quick questions. And I think all of us got in there. And Ben was online from Janjikau. We were all in Yanqing in the village. And Jonty was on the line. And we thought it was going to be like, you know, general knowledge. And I think everyone was all excited like it was going to be a pub quiz. But he did it all on the team and all on the stats.
Yeah, very direct. Very direct. It's like, okay, you have to know every single little bit of information to get that answer right.
And you can imagine a room full of incredibly competitive people who would normally be facing it, going, oh, this is it was very funny because there were things like how many competitions
have Mel been in from like the start of her career?
Yeah. And it was like a multiple choice. And it was it was hilarious because no one was winning. Everyone was losing, and it was very funny to watch.
Well, I got to ask you, Ben, heading into the closing ceremony, how are your nerves? How do you feel?
You know what? Not so nervous this time. Back when I was 14, I think I was more nervous in the actual race. Just don't drop the flag, don't do anything. But this time I'm just excited. It's been an epic games. It's been awesome. It's been a great team camaraderie around us as well. So I'm just excited to get to the bird's nest, which is an amazing building, and enjoy what the experience gives me. And doing it for the second time, I think the nerves are a bit lower.
No doubt, mate. You'll do it the way you do everything with the Paralympic movement. Someone described, was it your mum described you the best the other day? She said the Paralympic movement is in Ben's soul. You know, I thought that was just the perfect description for you. What's the first thing you're going to do when you get home?
Oh, probably eat a pub schnitzel.
Yes.
Kate, can you top a chicken snitty?
Yeah.
You can't.
I'm gonna cuddle my kids. I miss them.
Oh, it's pretty good. Yeah. Okay, it's pretty good.
I don't know. Snitty's pretty good. Okay, all right, guys. Enjoy tonight. We're thinking of you when you're carrying that flag in, mate. Don't just think about the last week. You're carrying every Paralympian in there from 1960, mate. So congratulations, super proud, honoured that you're a teammate, and thanks for joining us on You Little Ripper.
We have been so spoiled with our access that we have got this games, and it's been so brilliant to talk to pretty much every single athlete on our team.
I hope that we're going to have these episodes coming out more frequently. There will be a less gap between the next episode. Yes. This can be the voice of Paralympic sport, and we will be able to get athletes with disabilities on You Little Ripper and throw a few bonus episodes out there for people to catch up. So make sure you keep You Little Ripper in your feed and tell your friends about us. We need this to grow as big as we can, because Paralympic stories needs to be told, and not just at a Paralympic Games. Hopefully we can bring you world championships and everything in between. But for now, we have to kind of say goodbye.
I don't want to, but I'll do it. I'll do it for you, Kurt Fearnley. I'll say goodbye for now, because we are going to come back. But before we do that, we just have to say a huge thank you again to Toyota, our sponsor. Remember, here at You Little Ripper, we're trying to make the most accessible podcast that the Australian sports community has ever seen. We have transcripts, we have Auslan translations. You just go to YouTube and search You Little Ripper. All of our episodes are there, but we can't do any of this without Toyota. So we thank them very much. We also thank all of the Paralympians who have joined us on this series, and we thank you listening to us, because it just lets Kurt and I just bang on about a whole bunch of stuff that we get super emotional about and super passionate about.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. We won't say goodbye. We'll say see you next time. Thank you, Toyota.
You
little
Ripper!